Hey everyone, and welcome back to the final episode of the new and returning player's guide to World of Warcraft. So today we're going to be changing gears a little bit and we're doing a mini WoW Encyclopedia. A big MMO like this has loads of systems, types of content, and community shorthand that might be hard to follow initially. So today I'm going to take you through all of the commonly used WoW jargon and explain it. 123, 123. Yeah, this might make no sense on the face of it, but 123, 123 is commonly used when requesting a summon from another player in a group. Now this originated because when people were tasked with managing in summons, they would type in something along the lines of, say 123 if you want a summon. Well, that was essentially adopted by the community, and now 123, 123 is a pretty common way of requesting a summon. Next up, adds. So adds are additional enemies that spawn in during a boss fight. Generally, people will be told to crowd control adds, or perhaps to DPS them really fast, or to interrupt one of their casts, and they often play into the mechanics of a boss fight. Next, we have aggro, which is short for aggression. Now, the way that players use this is basically whenever a mob is aggressive towards them. As an example, if I was to walk near an enemy, that enemy was to see me and attack me, then players would say that I would have aggroed that enemy. Or, as an example, if, let's just say I'm a secondary tank and the primary tank in a dungeon has currently got threat on a target. I'll explain threat in a minute, but if a target is attacking them. Now, if I then taunted that target, then I would have aggroed that target off the other tank and to me. So aggro is essentially a term used by players in a few different ways that all surround enemies attacking players. Alt stands for alternate character. Basically, it's just any other character on your account. AoE stands for area of effect, and this refers to abilities that can affect enemies within an area. So you could have an area of effect damaging spell like Blizzard, or maybe an area of effect stun like Shadow Crash. Next, BG is short for battleground. Of course, if you want to learn more about those, hit up episode 7. Next, BOP and BOE stand for bind on pickup and bind on equip. Now this refers to when an item becomes soulbound, which means that it can no longer be traded with other players. Most items that drop from enemies are bind on pickup, meaning that they're no longer tradable once they are picked up off an enemy. However, some other ones are BOE, bind on equip. This means that once somebody wears them or uses them, they can no longer be sold on the auction house. But if you haven't worn it, maybe you could sell it on the auction house. So sometimes people will get a bind on equip item from a raid and they'd sell it on the auction house. And that's actually a way that many high-end guilds make a good bit of money. Next, BIS stands for best in slot. Typically, if somebody says that a bit of gear is BIS, it means that it's the best bit of gear available for that slot. So perhaps a trinket from a certain boss in a raid might be the best for someone's character, and that would make it very desirable for them. Burst refers to burst damage. This is doing a lot of damage in a short space of time, usually through activating your class buffs, like say a warrior's recklessness or a frost mage's icy veins. Sometimes an ad in a fight might need to die really quickly, so people might save up some of their buffs so that they can do burst damage really quick on demand. Cap is short for capture, and it refers to PvP objectives such as capturing a area or a flag, and it can also refer to the level cap, which right now is 120. Then CC is short for crowd control. CC abilities are those which limit enemies' mobility or control over their characters, such as an ice trap or a stun, or maybe something like a hex or a polymorph. DE is short for disenchant. It's something that enchanters can do where they break down a green or above quality item into raw materials that can then be used to enchant other items. DD, DPS, tank, and heal all refer to the group roles that we've covered in past episodes. DD and DPS are short for damage dealer and damage per second, with the latter generally being also used to refer to the role. Next, face pull and body pull are pretty much both the same thing. It's when a character engages in combat by walking close enough to an enemy that the enemy automatically attacks them. Now this normally happens because someone hasn't really been looking around them and they've accidentally ran into a group of enemies. Next, FOTM stands for Flavor of the Month, and it basically refers to maybe say a particular class or spec being trendy currently, either because it's performing really well or it happens to fit into maybe a raid boss's mechanics quite well. GCD is short for global cooldown, which is the internal cooldown that triggers after an ability is used, and you can see it on your hotkeys after you use pretty much any ability. GM either means guild master, someone who leads a guild, or game master, which is a Blizzard customer service representative. GL can either mean guild leader or it can mean good luck. Next up, grey, white, green, blue, purple, and orange refer to item quality, with grey being trash, white being common, green being uncommon, blue being rare, purple being epic, and orange being legendary. Next, HS is short for Hearthstone. HOT is short for healing over time, and that's a healing spell that will heal you slowly over time instead of all at once. Then HPS is healing per second. It's rather similar to DPS, and it's just a measure of healer throughput. Next, Ink is short for incoming. Now that would often be seen in a battleground. Somebody might say Ink LM, and that would mean that enemies are incoming towards Lumbermill. Next up, Inv means invite, so either maybe invited to a party, a raid, or a guild. Eye level is short for item level, and you'll see that on the tooltip of a bit of gear when you mouse over it. And now item stats are based off their item level, so generally speaking, the higher the item level, the more stats. So generally, higher item level bits of gear will be better. Next, Kick refers to interrupt. Now, this goes way back in the day when a rogue ability called Kick was one of the most common interrupts. So if you were to kick an enemy spellcast, if that is someone who asked you to do that, that would mean they want you to interrupt a particular spellcast. Next, LF, LFG, and LFM mean looking for group, and looking for more. So LF can be used for anything. LFG is normally when a solo player is looking for a group, and LFM is normally when a group is looking for more players. Then LFR stands for looking for raid, which is the match-made raiding difficulty covered in episode 6. LOS stands for line of sight. For an example, if someone was going to cast Frostbolt on me, but I ran behind a pillar, then the spell wouldn't go off because I would not be in their line of sight. Next up, lore is pretty much shorthand for, well, the entire history of the Warcraft universe, so it's a pretty big topic. Next, mats is short for materials, and it refers to the materials used in crafting professions. Mob is a generic term used to refer to a hostile NPC. MT stands for main tank. That's usually the tank who primarily tanks the boss, or the lead tank, but these days tanks often do end up swapping quite a bit. OOM, or stands for out of mana, and that's usually something healers will say when they need to stop combat to restore their mana. Next, peel is when you stop an enemy from attacking an ally by getting that enemy to attack you instead. So as an example, you would peel an enemy off a healer if the healer got aggro. Next, port is short for portal, and that is a mage ability that lets them make a portal for party and raid members to travel through. Next, proc is a slightly complex one. It goes way back in the day to the spec proc item tag from 90s MUDs. Now, it stood for special procedure, and that indicated that the item had a special effect. Well, in World of Warcraft, proc refers to an item's effect that can trigger, as an example, when you attack an enemy. So this effect of the item could be described as a proc, but proc can also be used as an active word. As an example, somebody saying, my trinket procced. Next, PUG stands for pickup group, and that's basically a group formed from players that you have found outside of your regular guild and friend circle, as an example through the group finder or through the looking for dungeon or looking for raid system. Next, QQ basically looks like the crying eyes emoji, and that refers to when people are complaining about something. Spec stands for a character's specialization, as an example, Frost, Fire, and Arcane if you were a mage. And then to respec is to swap your spec for another one, as an example, moving from Frost to Fire. Next, roll refers to the /roll command, which you can put into chat, and that will by default generate a random number between 1 and 100. So often people will ask others in a group to roll for an item, with that item being traded to the person with the highest roll. Next, RNG stands for random number generator. Within WoW, people refer to really anything that involves chance with this. As an example, a bit of gear Titan forging, or the rewards from your weekly Mythic Plus chest. It can also just refer to anything with randomness, such as abilities, procs, or even just luck itself. Next, RP is short for roleplay, and this is when people play as their characters and not themselves. So it's a little bit closer to playing a pen and paper RPG like Dungeons and Dragons from a character and storytelling perspective. Next, the major cities of World of Warcraft all have their own shorthand. As an example, Orgrimmar is shortened to Org, Stormwind is shortened to SW, and Ironforge is shortened to IF. Now, the same principle can be applied to dungeons and raids. As an example, Ice Crown Citadel was often referred to as ICC. Next, sheep refers to a mage's polymorph because it, turns the target into a sheep, and it's more commonly used just to refer to any long duration form of crowd control. Next, TP is short for teleport, however, it originated from Town Portal, which is back in Diablo. It's a fairly generic term though, so it could cover a mage's portal, it could cover a Hearthstone, though Hearth is typically used as the shorthand for Hearthstone. Next, TPS is short for threat per second, so enemies will attack the player with the most threat on them. Now, threat is generated when you do damage to a target, with tank specs generating more threat than anyone else. Next, WTS and WTB mean want to buy and want to sell, and they're often seen in the trade chat channel. Blizz is of course short for Blizzard Entertainment. M+ is short for Mythic plus Keystone Dungeons. Then AP is short for Artifact Power, which is one of the major forms of progression of both Legion and Battle for Azeroth. So there you go, that is a collection of the most commonly used shorthand that you'll see often used in World of Warcraft. It might seem a lot at first, but soon it will all become second nature. And with that, well, that's the new Returning Players series over. These 10 episodes should be enough to get anyone, no matter how new they are to the game, up to speed and ready to go. So thank you very much for sticking with me for the series. If you want to help out some of your friends who are new to the game, this series is just a great thing to fire them at. And yeah, with that, if you want to see more of me, you can check out my channel, but with that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in-game.